Welcome back to Arise Primetime, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now, 15 years after Nigeria launched its fight against the militant Islamist group Boko Haram, the first half of this year saw fatalities in Borno State, the epicenter of the insurgency, reach their highest level in 5 years. That's according to research by the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Monitoring Group, or ACLED. It says farmers are increasingly targeted as insurgents seize food and land. In rural areas, many residents say the state has failed to protect them, and they fear traveling beyond their towns and village limits. So despite new offensives and government's assurances that the militants are weakening, attacks on civilians are reportedly rising again. And that sense of fear that people have been experiencing in Borno State for many years hasn't gone away. Will they ever see the day when Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other militant groups are completely defeated? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Nigeria's top security analyst and head of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, Kabir Adamu. Great to see you, Kabir. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. Let's start with the reported number of fatalities. According to ACLED, which you're well familiar with, it's an independent monitor that collects data from around the world, the number of fatalities are going up and are at their highest level in 5 years in Borno State. But the government is pushing back hard on that idea that fatality numbers are rising. What does your data show? Because I know you gather a lot of your data as well.
No, definitely. And I think we need to put it in context. ACLED, the information provided is for 5 years. And so we need to kind of run across the 5 years. So in other words, 2020 to 2025 that we are at the moment. For those 5 years, the average number of fatalities nationally is around 10,000 every year.
You mean 10,000 in Borno State or
no,
nationally?
Nationally.
Okay, right.
And then...
You mean nationally in terms of insurgencies or militancy, or nationally across the board?
Across the board.
Okay.
And I was going to break it down.
Right.
Now for Borno State, it comes to an average of about 3,000 out of that 10,000. And that means consistently Borno has maintained top spot in terms of the number.
That's 3,000 a year.
A year.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot.
My goodness.
However, and which is what was not pointed out in the report that the BBC produced. From May this year, we've seen a consistent decline. We started the year with a monthly figure of around 1,000.
Right.
It peaked in April at 1,300, and then by June it was around 1,200, and then at the last month, which was September, that we documented, it was about 580.
Right.
So it's dipping, it's coming down. And then again, Borno has not changed. Unfortunately, Borno still maintains the top spot in terms of fatalities. So to that extent, yeah, it is correct. But I think we need that granular approach.
Yes.
So to understand
they need to kind of reflect the downward trend.
Exactly. And,
right.
And, we've seen downward trends in this manner, but for us to record consistently across 4 months, I think it's something that deserves recognition.
Right. But the fact is that even if it is coming down, as you said, it's still an outrageously high number. And that sense of fear that people feel being in those Boko Haram areas and other ISWAP and all the rest of it, I mean, that hasn't gone away, has it?
Not at all. Essentially, the local governments in Borno are fortress towns. We need to, that's something I would clearly admit.
Yes.
The military has created trenches.
Sometimes in Maiduguri, it's
all over actually.
Okay,
all the local governments.
Right.
The city centers are fortress locations. Trenches have been created around them, and farming activities require land. Sometimes these trenches are a distance of, let's say, 15 kilometers. So for these farmers who, that's their livelihood, they need some time to go out of those fortresses for their livelihood, sometimes for farming, sometimes to gather wood, whatever. Even grasshopper, they do go to fetch grasshoppers. And that's when they encounter these non-state armed groups, including the Jamaat al-Sunnah al-Dawat wal-Jihad, ISWAP, and name them, other criminal groups, and then they kill them. So yes, it is a fact that risk exposure is extremely high in those locations.
Right.
As long as, if you remain within those fortress city centers, you are likely not to encounter these challenges. But the moment you step out, and people do step out because they have to, fend for themselves,
Yes,
they need their livelihoods and all of that. Some travel from location A to location B. So that's when they encounter. And so to that extent, the report is correct. The risks are still extremely high, but then, like I said, the numbers are reducing.
But I mean, are you struck by the fact, because I mean, you've been consistently a security analyst with your Beacon Consulting, which is a very well-respected organization, for several years. I mean, are you struck by the fact that, the government at one point told us they technically defeated Boko Haram, and then, oh, well, we're going to deal with them and so on, and yet these numbers are still as high as they are? I mean,
yeah, and I mean, the reasons are not far-fetched, Charles. We have 3 instruments that we're using at the national level to address the insurgency or terrorism challenge that we have, which is the National Counterterrorism Strategy, the Policy Framework on Countering Violent Extremism, and then our Terrorism Prevention Law as amended in 2022. Now, when you pick each of these instruments, you find out that there are gaps. And I'll quickly kind of mention the most important gaps. Number one is the funding capacity of these bad guys. We've not done much to block that funding capacity. They're still able to collect dues. They're still able to, kidnap individuals, collect the ransom in ridiculous amounts. Number two is their weaponry. They're still able to acquire weaponry, sometimes from attacking our military formations, other times from across the border. We've not done much to reduce that capacity. Number three, their ability to recruit new members. We've not really done much in preventing them from recruiting those new members. And the fourth point rather, is their ability to move around from locations. We, at the point where the authorities technically defeated the group, they were more or less contained in the Northeast. Today, we have at least 3 fronts that we're dealing with. We have the Northwest Front in Sokoto and Kebbi, then we have the North Central Front in Kwara, and in parts of Niger State. So clearly, even if we had technically defeated them, the inability to suffocate the oxygen that allows them to propagate has now created a situation where we're not just dealing with them in the Northeast, we're dealing with them in other parts of the country, sadly. That's
a very important, very vital piece of information that you're giving us there. And just returning to that Borno State area, the farmers, as you said, still unable to farm, and we understand they can't do it unless they're under military escort. There's something called agro rangers or something that they I mean, so basically Boko Haram, even if they're in other words, the reason why they are accompanied by the military and by agro rangers because Boko Haram is still there.
Exactly. To limit their exposure to members of, and I don't like using the term Boko Haram because it diffuses.
Yeah, but I can't say. You say what's the name again?
So there are 2 groups that we're dealing with: the Islamic State in West Africa Province. I think it's easy to mention that, and then the Jamaat al-Sunnah al-Dawati wal-Jihad, which in short is called JAS.
Yeah, now, which we call Boko Haram.
Well, the thing is,
but that's not really their correct name.
And it kind of diffuses these 2 divisions that I've mentioned. We need to be clear. There is a difference between the activities and the modus operandi of these 2 groups. And so identifying them, knowing where they operate, what they are after, it's very important. It would help. But bottom line,
that's why we rely on experts like yourself.
Yeah, and thank you, Charles. It's important to the point you made that the moment they step out, they are vulnerable, and that's why those agro rangers are there. But then the challenge is this: number one, the number of agro rangers. And let's not forget that it's not just the agro rangers. We need to not just recognize, but also applaud the role that the civilian JTF are playing.
Right.
They are a significant component.
That's the Joint Task Forces, JTF.
No. These are a group of civilian, operatives who have been recruited by the state and that are supporting the federal agencies. They are quite effective. They provide intelligence. Sometimes they're in the forefront, actually, of whatever intervention it is. So they support these agro rangers. And then, of course, the military is there. The police are also sometimes there.
Yeah, but I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, we heard from the original report that I think was produced by the BBC. We had some of the farmers saying that these agro rangers and even the army often run away when Boko Haram turn up in large numbers and confront them. I mean, you don't blame them necessarily, because if you've got 3 or 4 people and then these guys come with 300 people, I mean, I'd run away, to be honest.
So, I mean, I was getting to that. The weaponry at the disposal of the agro rangers is nothing compared to what this bad guys have. I mean, if the military is finding it difficult sometimes to withstand and to confront, these bad guys,
what more the agro rangers? Right.
And so it is a fact that the capacity of not just the agro rangers, but the various elements that I've mentioned to ward off and to control. Sometimes the challenge is synergy. Till date, Charles, and I think it's very important for us to note this, our monopoly of the air component is still sacrosanct. There is no non-state actor that has acquired the capability to challenge the monopoly of the
Nigerian state. But do they have drones
state.
And things?
They do, but not weaponized
military or weaponized
drones. They've attempted to contract.
Well, if they get those, we're in trouble.
Exactly. So point I'm trying to make is we still have the capacity, if there was synergy, for some form of rapid response to support these agro rangers and make sure they don't run away, in the manner that those who have been interviewed have mentioned. But I mean, we must also comment this at the current military leadership and the other members of the security architecture. We've seen an improvement in that synergy, but there is still a long way to go. The false multipliers that would allow the people to feel protected, those false multipliers are yet to be deployed in the manner that we expect.
Well, I mean, there is obviously the federal strategy, but I understand there is also a statewide strategy in Borno State for dealing with this insurgency. It's something called the Borno Model, which is a community-driven initiative introduced by the governor of Borno State to persuade Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters to surrender their weapons and embrace peace. And the government claims that they're surrendering every day and that this non-kinetic approach has been working. What's your assessment of that?
At the last count, if I remember well, we're told that over 120,000 have surrendered. So that's something to be applauded.
Well, that's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Well, over what period of time?
I think from 2018, that was when this Borno model was introduced. And the military general retired, who is managing that process, deserves a lot of commendation. If Nigeria, in the manner of my previous discussant, was a state that wants to progress, that military general should be brought to the federal level. That model should be replicated.
Yes, indeed.
In the minimum, he has been able to reduce the strength of these two groups that I've mentioned.
But if there's 120,000 have...
that includes family members, operators,
I was going to say, if they've surrendered
captives.
And Boko Haram and ISWAP are still as effective as they are, I mean, they must have huge numbers of followers.
Yeah, but remember what I said earlier on, that we've not been able to suffocate them. They're still able to recruit new members.
So as they're surrendering, they're kind of replenishing their numbers.
Exactly. Unless we approach the challenge in that multifaceted manner, where we're reducing their numbers and killing the ones that are being killed. A lot are being killed. A significant number are surrendering, but we also need to stop them from recruiting new members. The policy framework on countering violent extremism has a lot of strategies to reduce the recruitment. The challenge, Charles, is we've not implemented that document. The beauty, and I'm quite excited, is that the revised version of that document is about to be published or introduced by this administration, and the process for revising it was quite inclusive. The validation process was quite commendable. So we're hoping that the mistakes, the errors that occurred in the implementation of the previous one will help reduce that. The Borno model deserves commendation. There are challenges surrounding it because, I mean, you gather 120,000 people. What have you done with them? Have you been able to debrief them? What kind of information did you get from them? What are you doing with them at the moment? Because some of them, from what we're hearing, just stay in the camp and then they're able to leave the camp and unfortunately continue the dastardly activities that they're doing. Yeah.
So in those circumstances, do you think we'll ever see the day when Boko Haram and ISWAP and all the others are completely defeated?
So I mean, anyone interested in in the answer to your question should pick the book How to End Terrorism. Meanwhile, I actually got that book. I shared it with some of the leadership in our security. It's a very interesting book. It spoke about 6 scenarios of how terrorism would end. In those 6 scenarios, in none did it emphasize the kinetic approach. Yes, the kinetic approach is important, but you can never win a terrorism situation with just the kinetic approach. The root causes of terrorism need to be addressed. In our own case, the root causes are socioeconomic, they are political, and to an extent, the attitude of our security forces. The recruitment is being done by these 3 things. So unless we address those 3 things, and if we continue on this path that we are at the moment, where the focus is kinetic, we're not going to get out of this, sadly. And I'm saying this with all sense of responsibilities. Those 4 elements that I mentioned earlier on, funding, equipment, ability to recruit, then their capacity to move from point A to point B, we need to stop that. Once we stop those 4 things, it's just a matter of time. This would come to a natural end.
And Kabir, now that we've got you here, I mean, we've got literally about 2 minutes or so left. I mean, what's because your organization, Beacon Consulting, you come up with these regular sort of figures and statistics and so on about what is going on generally. I mean, beyond Borno State, we've got banditry, we've got, IPOB, we've got all kinds of things across the country. Just very briefly, give us an overview of what is going on now, where things stand with all of that.
Let me just, in terms of a ball figure, at the end of September, from January to the end of September, for abduction, we've recorded 6,874 Nigerians that were, Nigerians and internationals that are living in Nigeria that have been abducted within those months. And then for fatalities, we have...
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Then we have 8,886 persons that have been killed within from January to the end of September 2025. But this is the beauty of the situation, if at all there's any positive side. Like I mentioned, starting from June, we saw the numbers decreasing. From 1,300 a month, we are at 596 at the end of September. That needs commendation. And what are the reasons for this dip? Number one, we've seen improved intelligence. We're now seeing intelligence-led and precise interdiction attacks where they're killing the bad guys, they are destroying their supply chains. That deserves commendation. Number two is this introduction of the forest guards by the president, and of course with the state governors. I think we need to move fast on that particular element
to strengthen,
make sure that the policy, as it were, is implemented fully, so that our forested areas are no longer being used as safe havens for these bad guys. Sambisa Forest, as an example, that's where Omandara Mountains, that's where these bad guys kind of, they stay, including the Lake Chad Basin. They stay, come out and conduct it. So we need to occupy those locations, and I think the president is very, very smart in doing that. Number three, Charles, which is absolutely important, we need to be able to disaggregate the challenges. The issue of agro rangers is a bit contentious, and I would quickly explain what I mean. Agro rangers are supporting farmers. What of the herders, who also are claiming that they are being cattle are being rustled, they are being killed? Who is protecting them? Nobody is protecting them. So we need to approach security from that diverse lens, so that every member of the society feels is also protected. Justice, there can't be peace without justice. So we must strengthen that justice component, so that every Nigerian feels he's being fairly treated.
Kabir, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We're up to date. Kabir Adamu is Nigeria's top security analyst and head of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.